for my people, my tribe, my circle. For the ones who show up, who care, who stay. For the ones who celebrate me, believe in me, support me. For the connections that matter, the relationships that grow. I'm grateful for the love I receive and get to give. My tribe is my greatest blessing. I'm grateful for my inner circle. The people who know me deeply love me anyway. The people who challenge me, inspire me, make me better. The people who I can be 100% myself around, without judgment, without fear. My tribe makes my life rich with meaning. I'm grateful for the chosen family I've created. For the people who feel like home. For the bonds that were meant to be. For the connections that were divinely arranged. For every conversation, every laugh, every moment. My gratitude for my tribe is endless. I used to think I had to do life alone. I used to believe that asking for help was weakness. But my tribe showed me that connection is strength. That community is beautiful. That I'm more powerful with my people. I'm so grateful for them. I'm grateful for my tribe. They're my lifeline. I'm grateful for my tribe. I'm grateful for my tribe. They're divine. For the people who love me unconditionally, I'm grateful for my tribe. So beautiful, my life is richer because of them. I'm grateful for my tribe, my everything. Thank you for being in my life. I'm grateful for my tribe. You make it right. I'm grateful for my tribe. You make it right, you make it right. I'm grateful for my tribe. My tribe brings out the best in me. My tribe makes me feel like I belong. My tribe reminds me that I'm not alone. My tribe is my greatest gift. I'm grateful for every single person in my circle. I am blessed with amazing people. My tribe is my treasure. For my people, my tribe, my circle. For the ones who show up, who care, who stay. For the ones who celebrate me, believe in me, support me. For the connections that matter, the relationships that grow. I'm grateful for the love I receive and get to give. My tribe is my greatest blessing. I'm grateful for my inner circle. The people who know me deeply love me anyway. The people who challenge me, inspire me, make me better. The people who I can be 100% myself around, without judgment, without fear. My tribe makes my life rich with meaning. I'm grateful for the chosen family I've created. For the people who feel like home. For the bonds that were meant to be. For the connections that were
when you see you where they find the pity. Tell all those say we like to party. Just call me. You want to dirty pity, you gonna dirty pity. When you see dirty pity, when you see dirty pity, you where they find the pity. Tell all those say we like to party. Just call me. You want to dirty pity, you gonna dirty pity. When you see dirty pity, when you see dirty pity, you where they find the pity. Tell all those say we like to party. Just call me. You want to dirty pity, you gonna dirty pity. When you see dirty
Every day, millions of people wake up searching, hoping, trying, believing, surviving. Because life isn't always easy. Relationships aren't always simple. Work isn't always fair. Dreams don't always happen on schedule, but every challenge creates an opportunity for conversation. Honest conversations, real stories, big ideas, powerful questions, practical wisdom. This is TLS Talks, hosted.
Listen. This ain't just a podcast. This is real talk for real life. Yeah. When you town it up, use it up, make it clear, make it right. TLS Talks. Yes, yes. TLS Talks. Pull your chair up, come on in. Come on in. Yeah. Everyday people, where we begin. When the world get loud, we talk it out. When life get heavy, we work it out. From the headlines to your real life, this that TLS Talk. This is TLS Talk. Real talk, real life, real life. This is TLS Talk. Real talk, real talk. Break it down. TLS Talk. Real talk it out. Real talk. Inside. It's TLS Talk. Real talk, real talk. Miss. Business, life hacks, hot topics, everyday walk, right here, right now. If you came for truth, you're welcome here. If you came for truth, you're welcome here. If you came for truth, you're welcome here. Say TLS Talk. Yeah. It's Talk. Yeah.
You're listening to TLS Talk Radio. Real talk, real issues, and real solutions that make a difference. I'm your host, Dr. Terrell Strayhorn, educator, administrator, author, professor, messenger, and more. Be sure to tune in via YouTube while you're there. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and follow us so you get notifications when we go live. Now let's join the show is already in progress.
All right. Well, welcome back. So I just realized the reason why you couldn't hear me is because my mic was off. I had the studio cleaned yesterday, and I'm assuming they hit the button that turned that off. So anyway, real show. I'll go back and record the opening again, but welcome. And so for this episode's Professor Podium, given the conversation we're going to have with Dr. Melissa Yeung in a moment, is I'm going to talk about burnout. So burnout isn't weakness. It's a warning sign. Burnout is much more than stress in a psychological sense. The World Health Organization recognizes burnout as an occupational phenomenon, has three dimensions to it. One, emotional exhaustion. Two, cynicism or detachment. And three, reduced sense of accomplishment. So you might be at work, you might be at home, you might be in some sort of vocational or community service project of yours and feeling tired at times. When you really want to start thinking about burnout, we're going to talk about it today with Dr. Yeung. you're looking for these three dimensions: emotional exhaustion, not just physical exhaustion. And that exhaustion leads to a form of detachment or cynicism, sort of crankiness, sort of bad energy around the work. And then third, this reduced sense of accomplishment. So where you once felt a sense of pride and joy and accomplishment, you may be feeling less of that. Burnout really does affect our relationships. It affects our physical health. It affects creativity, and it limits our ability to engage in effective decision making. Sometimes the strongest people burn out, not because they don't have anything left or they're not able to sort of push through, but the strongest people burn out because they're the ones every single person depends on. They're in a role where a lot of people are depending on them. They're in a role where deadlines and priorities really are seen to be their priority. And so this is an important dimension of burnout, because when we start thinking about how you can prevent it or affect it, intervene, it really is about distributing that responsibility, distributing that accountability. And this really segues quite beautifully into belonging, which we're going to also talk to Dr. Yeung about. So one thing my research has taught me is people don't simply burn out because they work too much. Sometimes they burn out because they work in places where they don't feel seen. They work in places where they don't feel supported. They work in places where they don't feel heard. And so to any leaders, managers, supervisors, team coordinators out there, if we want to prevent burnout, especially work-related burnout, it's not just about distributing the workload so that no single person has to carry it all on their own, although that's important. It's also about making sure that the folks on our team, the people in our business, our corporation, our nonprofit, and to the pastors and leaders out there, even in our congregation, that they feel heard, supported, seen, visible, and cared about. And so it's really about this architectural work that we have to do to make big places feel small, to make large places feel small. And so people don't burn out because they work in places where they don't exist. It's where they don't feel seen, they don't feel valued, and where they don't feel like they belong. Remember, this is TLS Talk, Saturday, July 18th, and this day in history. Woo, woo. Yes, get your notes ready. Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Pre-Dr. Wilson. We're getting there. But, get ready for it. So it's July 8th. Some highlights from today's in history. Then we'll take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll be with our guest. It's Nelson Mandela's birthday, July 18th. So happy birthday to Nelson Mandela. And Mandela's life really taught us about the principles of leadership, forgiveness, purpose, and belonging, as he worked really hard with others to create communities instead of isolated kinds of spaces. And so we want to use today as an opportunity to not only celebrate the birthday of Nelson Mandela, but to pay attention to the fact that his life leaves a legacy around forgiveness and purpose, belonging, leadership, and creating and cultivating communities and spaces for others. And so one way we can do this is by living our life to do more, to create spaces for folks to feel included, to feel part of. Now then, speaking of leadership, today's guest has spent years studying leadership, belonging, and well-being. And then after this quick break, we're going to be here to welcome Dr. Melissa Yeung to the show. Dr. Yeung is an academic leader and a scholar practitioner with over 10 years of experience in higher education administration, graduate enrollment management, faculty development, and student success in online and hybrid learning environments. Her expertise spans equity-focused admissions and student and faculty well-being. She's an active researcher and presenter, and her scholarship really focuses on student belonging. We're going to talk about it today. Diversity and outcomes for adult and non-traditional learners and professional education. Don't go anywhere. Don't go too far, because when we come back from this quick break, you'll be with me and Dr. Melissa Yeung. This is TLS Talks. Happy Saturday to each and every one of you.
Hey fam, want to know how to subscribe to the channel? Well, let's get started. First, open your web browser or the YouTube app on your phone or computer. If on a computer, type www.youtube.com into the browser bar. Step 2, find the channel. In the search bar at the top, type Terrell Strayhorn, or simply visit my channel directly at Terrell Strayhorn Step 3. While watching a video on the channel, click the like button. It tells YouTube this content matters, and it helps others find it too. Step 4, hit subscribe and don't forget to click the bell to turn on notifications. Now you'll be notified every time we go live or post something new. And presto, that's it. That's all. Thanks for being part of the community. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the channel. Continue to do good work.
Every day is a gift I get to unwrap. Every morning is a new opportunity. Every breath is a miracle. Every moment is precious and fleeting. Every day I'm alive is a day I'm blessed. Every single day is a gift. I'm not promised tomorrow. I'm not guaranteed next week. All I have is today, and today is enough. Today is beautiful, today is perfect, today is exactly what I need. Every day is a gift I'm not taking for granted. Oh, some people don't wake up this morning. Some people don't get another day. That's why I'm grateful for mine. That's why I appreciate every second. That's why I'm making the most of today. Every day is a gift, and I'm receiving it. Every day brings new possibilities. Every day brings new blessings. Every day is a fresh start. Oh, every day is a chance to be grateful. Every day is a chance to grow, love, and live. Every day is a gift. Oh, every day is a gift. I'm unwrapping it. Every day is a gift. I'm stepping in. 24 hours of being alive and awake. Every day. Every day is a gift. Every day is a gift. Every day is a gift. I'm not wasting a single moment. 24 hours of being alive and awake. Every day. Every day. Every day is a gift. 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 Every day is a gift.
Awesome. Well, that's fantastic. And now I want to welcome to the show my guest for today, Dr. Melissa's in the house. Hello, Dr. Melissa. How are you? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfectly. All right. So I told you all before the break that Dr. Melissa Yeung is an academic leader and scholar practitioner with over 10 years of experience in higher education administration and graduate enrollment and faculty development and student success, not just in person, but in online and hybrid learning environments. Her expertise really spans a lot of different topics. We connect in our focus on belonging and well-being. We're going to talk about all of it here, but listen, everyone sees the accomplished leader. Very few people get to see the person behind it all, except today in TLS Talks, we get to meet you in person, who's endured successes and challenges, hills and valleys. So for a moment, tell us a little bit about your background and story, please.
Sure. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me clearly?
Perfect.
Great. So while preparing for this episode today, I went back on my professional history and started counting the years that I've had. This is my 18th year as a higher education professional. I've spent, pretty much my entire career in higher education. Definitely, as you said, a lot of ups and downs. I have had done a little bit of everything. I've done a little bit of financial aid, advising, international admissions, international student advising. The graduate space is something that I hold very near and dear to my heart. And eventually, throughout the years, as I have navigated my own career, equity and belonging is kind of where I've, decided this is where my space will be, where I feel that I can make the most impact for students. Specifically, somehow I found myself in the health professions education, and I think we have some overlap there as well. And that's where I think I've chosen to put my roots down, and I've been really fortunate to be able to grow and flourish and be given the opportunities that I've been given to be where I am here today. So really thankful for that.
Yeah, I love it. So how did it all begin? Tell us about you growing up. Tell us a little bit about what family looks like for you and all.
Yeah, so I actually grew up in Singapore, did not grow up in the United States. Family life, very typical middle income family in Singapore. I am the eldest daughter, and so all the stereotypes that come with being the eldest daughter. In fact, I just took my parents on a vacation and had to manage and plan and do all of the things, right, that comes with the responsibilities of being an eldest daughter. I moved to the US in 2010. Met a boy, got married. He's American, and he's like, I'm going home to do grad school. I would like you to come with me. I'm like, that sounds like an adventure. And so he moved back to Texas, and I obviously came with him. Did my master's degree at Texas A&M College of Education in higher ed administration. And couldn't really figure out what I wanted to do after that. Bounced around a little bit, like I said, international admissions, grad admissions. Decided that grad admissions was the space that I wanted to be. When my husband was done with his PhD, we moved to Richmond, Virginia. So we've got plenty of overlaps. And so I found myself at the physical therapy program at VCU. Mostly doing admissions. And that's where, and again, people who know me very well know that I, always credit my success to my mentors there, my boss, the program director of admissions. They were the ones who gave me the opportunity, and they said, hey, you know what? You are going to have a lot of time in this job, and you have time now in your life. We didn't have kids then. To really do something right with your life. VCU at that time, I don't know if they still do it, offered a tuition benefit for employees. And so my boss said, go and do that. I know you're going to do great things in life, right? And this was in 2016. And that was the first time anyone ever said that to me. You are going to go and have an impact, whether it's this community or any other community. So go and do this. And the program has your back, and we will support you. You need time off, whatever you need. And so I went and I did that. I did my PhD at VCU's School of Ed. Shout out to my dissertation advisor, Dr. Tamika Ferguson.
Oh, wow.
I was her first student. And so I think, we've had a lot of fun times together, just trying to figure out what our next steps were and what the future looked like, for herself and for me. It was a great experience, right? And that's where my boss at that time said, hey, you know what, for your dissertation, do something with admissions, right? Because it's a space where at that time, the field of physical therapy really needed it. We needed to figure out how to improve the diversity of the profession. And through that, those opportunities, my dissertation ended up being an investigation into the experiences of racially minoritized students as they navigated the admissions process and their journey. So a lot of that was really based on, institutional challenges and barriers that make it challenging for students of color to kind of navigate resources. The resources are there, right? We all know it. But how students of color navigate those resources looks very different from white students who navigate those resources. So that's kind of where I got my start, and where I've decided to just move on from. And I've since got a job at another institution where I again have been really, really fortunate to explore some of these issues a little further. I've gone into burnout, I've gone into belonging, and huge advocate for student mental health as well.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I mean, I didn't know we had all these connections between
Yeah.
Richmond and Tamika,
Mhm.
Dr. Ferguson. Shout out to
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
And you've got connections even with folks in the audience. You've got the elder daughter effect
Mhm.
going on. So, to everyone who's been the eldest sibling, we'll be able to relate to that. And then there's certainly lots of folks who are ready to learn from all the gems that you will drop today. So let's get into it, because I think I'm so excited about these points of connection that we share. But when we started talking about having you on the show, you shared something that was incredibly vulnerable, that you yourself had experienced burnout. Can you take us back? When did you first realize that, this is not just stress anymore?
Yeah. I wasn't the one who realized I was burning out. It was a trusted coworker, and we were having kind of an informal peer mentoring moment. And like she was the one who requested it because she kind of needed some feedback, and some opinions and input. But it was in that conversation that somehow it came out. She was like, you know what? I think you are burned out. And she told me that. And she's like, I think you need a break. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm not burned out. I am enjoying all the success. I'm good. I've got so much to do. Like, I cannot take a break right now. Right. And she looked at me. She's also an eldest daughter. And so that's how, she's my work bestie. And that's how we bonded in a way. And she looked at me. She was like, yeah, you're burned out. I was like, no, I'm not. But I really, again, she's a trusted coworker, right?
Yeah.
So I took her words to heart. I reflected, for a couple of days after that, right? And I started being really paying attention to what I was feeling, and, my kind of how I was interacting with other people. And I really took a step back and I went, wow, maybe I really am burned out. And by that point, we had started a new program from scratch. And you can imagine all the work that goes into it. We were working, I mean, I say we, the team really was working nonstop, right? And I've been going for, I want to say about 3 to 4 years at that point. I took vacations, right? But your mind doesn't really switch off, right? And so that moment that somebody had to point out to me that I was burnt out. And then I realized, yes, I was coming into these situations, perhaps being a little too aggressive, right? Because I'm now, I'm just irritated with everyone. Everyone just seemed like they didn't know what I was doing. There was a lot of impatience from me. I realized I wasn't showing the kind of grace and empathy to others that I wanted to show as a person. So a lot of that was really being, a lot of outward, what do you call that? Like me lashing out at people rather than taking it internally. And, I just realized that was not the kind of leader I wanted to be. That was not the kind of leader I had set out to be. Right. And that was when I realized something needed to change, and that I was burned out.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing it, because before you came on the show, each show I have this little professor's podium segment where I sort of teach something that, to everyday audiences that you might have to get in one of our classrooms. And today I tackled burnout because I knew what we were going to talk about. And I shared that there are 3 dimensions to burnout, according to the World Health Organization, which you just spoke to. One is emotional exhaustion. And so sometimes you can't, physical exhaustion we can feel, right? And we can name like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I need to take a nap every single day. But when we are emotionally exhausted, it can cause that aggressive kind of response that you were alluding to, that it takes someone else who just knows us well to be like, you're really irritable. Like you're really short tempered. You are really quick tongued nowadays. And you'll realize like you're just emotionally zapped of the energy you have that you normally can cope with, as you said, that allows you to give grace to others that you're not even giving to yourself at that point. I think the second you name is this dimension around detachment, where things that used to sort of, you used to be very engaged in and very, invested in and close to, you may find yourself pushing back from not just projects, but sometimes people, places. And then the third one is this reduced sense of accomplishment, that we're doing stuff and we're busy, but we're not deriving that sense of satisfaction and joy and accomplishment from those things. Was that resonate with the experience you had?
Absolutely. That was really it. I was just distancing myself, wasn't really interested in being social, right? Even within the workplace. And what was interesting is that there was the inside that was completely burned out, right? But there's still a mask that you have to wear, right? Because you're a leader and people expect certain things of you. And so you still have to wear that mask. And so I think not unless people who are close to me and they knew me really well, like my coworker, everyone else, I think, didn't realize what was going on, right? Because of that mask you wear, especially as a leader. And I honestly, I mean, maybe my boss is going to watch this, but I don't know that if she knew that I was burned out, right? I think she had an idea, but I don't think she realized just how serious that burnout was.
I think sometimes people think, burnout can just be, hello, Emily, thanks for tuning in to the show. That, burnout can be just sort of fleeting and passing, and it's just having a rough day. We all have rough days, obviously. That's not what we're talking about only. Although if you are having a rough day, sometimes you have to be mindful, because a rough day can lead into rough days. Yep. And then the continuation of that can be exactly what we're talking about here. So, as we think about burnout, and particularly the experience that you had with your trusted colleague, and I loved that. I perked up when you said work bestie, because I have a work bestie, and maybe everyone does, but you need these folks who can help you realize that something had changed. So what was next? How did you start to really confront this burnout that you were experiencing and seek the kind of support and assistance that's necessary for changing that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. But before that, to your point, I do agree that everyone needs a work bestie, right? Whether it's just to vent or, just as a reflection of what's going on. And I've been really fortunate to have very many work besties in my professional career. And so they are some of the resources and the support people, I think, that have allowed me to do the things that I want to do. So everybody, get yourself a work bestie. But to your point, I think what I had to take a step back, right? And I really had to give myself permission to do a couple of things. One is to take a break, right? Like I said, I mean, you constantly feel that, and this is higher ed, right? There's always something to do. Something always comes up, right? But you have to give yourself permission to step back and take a break. Because the problems that you have today, they're still going to be there waiting for you when you come back, right? So I gave myself permission to take a break, and I realized, like, wow, I have all of these sick days that I wasn't taking. I have a remote job. I work from home. So I had all these PTO that I wasn't taking, it's a lot. I was donating my sick leave to the sick leave bank because I was like, I have so much, sick leave. And that was when, if Stephanie are watching this, my boss, don't maybe like mute, but I texted my boss to say, do you care what I do with my sick leave? And she's like, no. And so in my head, I'm like, I'm going to take the sick leave and take mental health days, right? It could be just 4 hours, could be just 8 hours, but I gave myself permission to do that, and walking away sometimes is the best thing you can do for yourself, whether it's, for forever or just taking, just a little time off. That was the first thing that I did. And the second thing that I did was to give myself permission to say no. And that I think, is something a lot of us struggle with, right? Is that, being able to say no and draw appropriate boundaries at work. So I gave myself permission to say no. And through both of those things, I realized that I don't have to be the one solving everybody's problems, right? Again, the eldest daughter, like I feel like I have to deal with everything, but I realized that this is work. I don't have to solve everybody's problems. And sometimes maybe I don't have to solve some problems are just going to be problems, right? No matter how much work you put into it, it's never going away. It's never going to get better. And just being comfortable with the fact that sometimes this is just what it's going to be. So those things I think really help me kind of adjust my perspective on my work life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Love that. Taking lots of notes, and I know that folks out there, you are too. So let's remember, I mean, obviously, if you are a person who's feeling like you may be burnt out, or someone who's burnt out, one, if you haven't already, send in the link to this episode so they can dial in right now. But take a break. Well, look, Miss Wilson, who's one of our most engaged listeners, has done a great job of capturing some of this, so I don't have to go to my notes here. But if you want to start combating burnout, first of all, give yourself permission to take a break. I love the example you gave of how you might speak with your supervisor or your team coordinator or leader about how do you use your sick leave. And mental health moments, mental health hours, mental health days are great ways to just take a pause and reset, recharge while working. Give yourself permission to say no. I've sent this already to some of my colleagues who I know we've spent time thinking about how do you just find balance. Balance never looks like this in our workplace, but some balance that you can control and you can manage as you have so many different priorities that you're trying to manage. How do you how do you stay on top of it all and feel good about the journey? So learning how to say no, and then setting these boundaries, like when you're going to work on something and I just had this super major deadline at work. And I knew that as a person who, plays a number of roles, that means quite a few people are depending on me in different spaces. I just needed to admit, like, I've got to prioritize. I've got to focus on this one thing for this period of time. I will come back to these other pieces if there's anything that's an emergency along the way. But otherwise, this is going to be my focus right now because I simply don't have the bandwidth, cognitive, emotional, or physical, to take on anything else. And being able to communicate, and to your point, just give myself permission to say it. And just, trust that once I said it, I would be supportive. And I don't know if we put this, let me see, did she capture this? She didn't capture this one, but this one was powerful. And that is that if there are moments where you're not supported and the stress never lets up, having the courage to walk away. Walk away for the day, walk away for the hour, or sometimes walk away altogether. And this is something I'm learning a lot in my work with consulting work with companies, is there are so many folks, especially post-pandemic, who are just finding the need to walk away from things that they invested themselves in for years, because if they learn nothing from the pandemic, they learn that time is precious and tomorrow's not promised to anyone. And so, yes, work should be rigorous, and yes, work should be challenging at times and have a learning curve in it, but it should not be perpetually exhausting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
sends you to the grave very early. So I want to get into more, but before I do, let me pause and say, to what was that? Sorry, I have my notes here. To anyone who is experiencing or struggling with serious workplace exhaustion, please consider reaching out to your employer's Employee Assistance Program, EAP, connecting with a licensed mental health professional or counselor. And there's also the 988 line that if you are experiencing serious emotional distress or you're a person in crisis, you can call or text 988 at any time. You don't have to wait until things reach a breaking point to reach out for support. That's what we're trying to talk about in this episode, is you really can do that. So one other thing, Melissa, if you have nothing on that point, that a phrase from your bio that really grabbed me and it got me excited about our conversation today, there are so many of them actually, was one you put, that you've been trying to build belonging while struggling to be heard as a woman of color yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Help us know more about that experience.
Well, I mean, the reality, right? Let's, maybe start with the reality is being a person of color in the world that we live in is always going to be challenging, right? In whatever space you occupy. And that's just the reality. I've learned that you can be surrounded with people who consider themselves allies, right? And they're not my coworkers. I love them to death, right? They truly believe in, building a world, building equity, and they are certainly with me on the same page, on a lot of these things. But you will always be that person who has to educate others in the workplace, right? Or, in at least in my situation, not just educate others on, my own experiences, but I also feel responsible as a leader, to create spaces for other marginalized voices, because that is part of building belonging, right? Is everybody needs to be able to feel respected, right? Taking a page from your book, everybody needs to feel respected and valued, as an individual, and we cannot do that if we are not given the opportunity to do so, right? And it is certainly our responsibility as leaders in any organization to create that space for others to do that. Whether you're a white woman, black woman, Latino, Asian woman, right? Because I certainly don't speak for the Asian community. And if I have students who come in from, different backgrounds, or my coworkers who come in from very different backgrounds, I certainly feel a responsibility to be able to create those spaces for them to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel respected. And I think that is the struggle. And that maybe also leads into burnout a little bit, right? How do you balance, creating the space for other people, having to educate others on why this is important, while you are feeling burned out? And I think that was a huge reason why I was burned out, was because of that. I was constantly, trying to juggle all of these things, but also not realizing that maybe I needed a break and I needed to, just take a break from it all.
Yeah. You were talking about the intersections of our work with the health professions. And so I was recently gave a keynote at the National Dental Association. And they brought me there to talk about about belonging, but for faculty, staff, and students. So those who are in dental education. And I made the observation, sometimes when you plan these presentations, keynotes, talks, you plan to say something and you think people might clap a little bit and then you'll move on. So I opened at some point talking about the invisible labor that so many of us who are just positioned in the world to have to take on more of that than some. And it's exactly what you're saying. It's people of color, it's women of color, it's LGBTQIA2S plus faculty and staff, it's those who are, living at the intersection of all those identities, even with hidden or invisible disabilities, who had to take on all this work because students see us as
Right.
possibility models and role models and
Right.
mentors. And even when you're not their formal advisor or their formal counselor, you may not be assigned to them to work in financial aid, but they're going to come to you, and their parents
Yep.
are going to come to you when they see you.
Yep.
To ask all sorts of questions, sometimes even
Yep.
in native languages and tongue. So
Yep.
as leaders, as deans, as provosts, as directors, I was saying, we have to first of all, we got to acknowledge that is true. We have to name and acknowledge that invisible labor that can sometimes be mountainous. It's not like it's one or two cases. Sometimes it can be significantly more than what our colleagues have to shoulder or to bear. And then I think we have to use our policies, our practices, our programs, and our reward structures to celebrate and reward that labor.
Yes.
And I hear you talking about that so many times when we're doing this work, who you are does matter in so many ways. Sometimes it shapes, our opportunity structures as professionals and what it will take for us to be advanced or promoted or to receive more money, but then also the kind of work that comes our way. And so thank you for naming that to everyone who's watching or will watch, who've had to shoulder that invisible labor. If no one's told you this week that we appreciate you and we celebrate you and we see you, then I know Melissa and I do certainly want to celebrate that.
Absolutely.
So as you were doing this work and you're thinking about, and you mentioned something else earlier, you said that now you work remotely. Is that correct?
I do.
So, for those who are curious about that way of life, tell us a little about remote work, especially in higher education. And more importantly, back to the point, how do you then manage the stressors and the challenges so that you don't feel burnout even there?
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of pros and cons, right? So I work remotely, as is 90% of our team. We have a small number of people who are on site in Bowling Green, Ohio. And, we need them there to really be the people who actually move the pieces around, right? The rest of us, faculty, staff, are remote. We are scattered across the country. I'm in Houston, Texas. So that in itself, I'm going to start with the pros. It's great, right? Working from home. I am also an introvert, right? So I don't need a lot of people time, and this is great for me. I do my thing in the morning. My hours are somewhat flexible. Show up to meetings when I have to, right? And do the things when I have to in that set time. And if I have to put in hours after 5 p.m., I have the flexibility to kind of adjust that time where I can. But maybe, the flip side is that could also lead to burnout, right? And that might be the reason why, because I'm at this desk all day, every day. My workplace is also my home. And so I realized kind of early on that there needed to be a separation. So if you are, starting a remote job, you're thinking of it, I personally feel it's very important to have some kind of physical separation between your workspace and your home space, right? And, we talked about it since realizing that I was burned out. Part of setting that boundaries is telling myself, the minute you walk out of this office, you're not coming back the rest of the day, right? So maybe it's 5 p.m., maybe it's 6 p.m., but I tell myself, the minute you walk out, you're done for the day. You're not coming back in until the next morning, whatever that time is. So there are certainly pros and cons. And I think for someone who is really good at self-managing, like a remote job is great, because if you have the discipline to draw those boundaries, to say, I'm only going to work 8 to 5, right? I'm not going to touch this computer. I'm not even going to think about it outside of those hours. Then there is some flexibility for people, especially if you have others who depend on you, right? For that kind of support. That flexibility is great. As long as you know how to manage just drawing appropriate boundaries. But your second question is, how do we manage this team? And I think, and I certainly don't take credit for it. I think my boss has done a really good job really early on in encouraging the social connections and interactions. So Bowling Green is a Microsoft school. We use Teams a lot. And so really early on, we have like channels for just casual, chit chat discussions. We, share tidbits about our life. I complain about the weather, if it's too hot or too cold, right? It's either one of those in Houston. We share milestones from our children, so we have that social space that we can choose to engage in or not, right? Because certainly there are people, I recognize that there are people on our team who, maybe, for them, belonging is choosing not to belong, right? They're just here, they want to work, and that's fine. But we also kind of use technology to our benefit, right? In that sense, creating that social space, creating a space where I feel like, okay, if I have a question, I can just ping a coworker on Teams, and it would be kind of the equivalent of me getting out of my office, walking down the hallway, right? Just poke my head in and chatting. So we have a lot of that. There certainly is a culture around that to support belonging. Now, that said, you still have to be pretty intentional about it, right? And I gonna admit some of my newer coworkers, who's joined the team in the last 6 months, I don't really have a habit of going and connecting with them because I just, I'm tired and I don't want to, right? I mean, no offense, you guys, but I'm just tired. I don't want to. But there are certainly, people that I feel like we have connection. I have a connection with that I spend more time nurturing those relationships than others. And so it still has to be very intentional.
Right.
But I don't see it as being any different, right? You just maybe have to give it a bit more thought into what that looks like. But again, going back to burnout, if no one is intentionally connecting with you in that online space, and you are not intentionally connecting with others in that online space, it's very easy to feel isolated, right? And it's your mental health. When you feel burned out, there also is no one else that you can talk to. Again, which is why everybody needs a work bestie, right? Because at least you have that one person, whether you are just chatting, venting or sharing, I don't know, Instagram posts on text or whatever it is, right? I think we all need at least one person to be that person for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are really great examples of how, folks can experience the remote workplace we spent quite a bit of time on the podcast helping people who are trying to, get out there again and work again, because, the audience tends to attract folks who are working in spaces that some of those jobs have been eliminated or terminated due to all sorts of political movements across the country. And I've heard from a number of people who are really interested in remote employment and just don't know, like, once you get there, how do you stay connected? And they're torn between this idea of like, I feel like I need to be around people. So being able to ping people, check in with folks, but also to, live out your guidance earlier. And that is set boundaries and say, look, I'm exhausted right now. So I'm really I don't have the bandwidth to check in with anybody else. I got my crew, I got my work bestie, and I'm sure I'll meet you at the next huddle online, and that's totally appropriate. So these sort of channels can be really effective. I've been using, it was one of my colleagues who helped me. We use Microsoft Teams at my campus too. And I've always, prior to this year, I've always used it as like a video conferencing tool, right? Just go have a meeting, come out of the meeting, go have a meeting, come out of the meeting. But I watched him use Slack, which is a different software, and be able to like communicate with his team and send messages and whatever. And I was like, oh, I could do that with Teams. So now in my Teams, I do the same thing you do. I'll check in with some colleagues rather than go to their office or send them another email. I'll just ping them a note. I also have these groups that I've created. So like one of the roles I have at my institution is the Dean of Education. And I created a Teams channel for our recent graduates where, you know, they could share updates on like the jobs they've landed and stay in touch with the school. I mean, it's been really, really wonderful. So thanks for sharing those kinds of creative ways of using the tool.
Yeah, I mean, we use it for the silliest things. You know, we sometimes it's just me sending an emoji after reading an email, right? Like a roll eye emoji, like this again, you know. Or we just send gifts. Some days I just communicate in gifts because I don't have any more words to share. And so I think it's the little things. It doesn't have to be this huge like display of, oh, you know, we are going to do a team activity or whatever, right? I mean, I'm an introvert. Don't, you know, make me do that. But it's the little things, I think, that can be very impactful in the long term.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. All right. So listen, y'all, you're watching TLS Talks. If you haven't already, don't forget to go like and subscribe to the channel. Share the conversation. Someone you care about, love, may need to hear it today. We are here and we're not going to go anywhere very far. But after this quick break, we'll be right back for part 2 of our interview and our closeout. So don't go anywhere. Let folks know we're on. We'll be right back.
Every conversation starts with a spark, igniting big ideas that can transform lives. In TLS Talks, we delve deeper into the issues that truly matter, exploring human potential for change and connection. Are you ready to discover what's possible together? Remember, this isn't just a show, it's a movement, a vibrant space where thinkers, doers, and dreamers unite. Each episode is carefully curated to promote learning, growth, and development, pushing boundaries and dreaming bigger. So join us as we create a community of changemakers. TLS Talks explores new ideas and challenges the status quo. Each conversation inspires thought and transformation. Are you ready to live, learn, and lead? Let's dream, let's live, and do good work. Look to be inspired as you engage the conversation. Click the like button, drop comments in the chat, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Remember, your voice matters, you are enough, and you belong here just the way you are. TLS Talks is your platform to talk and transform. Now let's get back to the show already in progress.
All right, welcome back. And so, Melissa, you've researched belonging. Woohoo! So in your work, how would you define belonging? And how is it different from simply being present or included?
Yeah, it's, you know, really good question. I appreciate you bringing that up. My definition of belonging is very much based on your definition of belonging in your book. So you've been cited a lot. Is, you know, just, and I cite it because I believe in it, right? I agree with it. It resonates with me. It's not just recognizing that people are there, right? But also recognizing that whatever that they bring to the table is meaningful and valuable, right? Respecting them as people, right? Respecting their contributions as being valuable to the community they belong in. And, you know, recognizing that everybody, and I tell my students this all the time, is everyone is unique, right? You could, and I have a lot of students who come from really rural areas. And I'm like, you all could come from the same town, right? But I guarantee you that because of how you grew up, because of the experiences you were exposed to, you are very different people. And I think sometimes people don't realize that, right? So I think that is also part of belonging, is recognizing that they're all unique. And one of the things in our research is the students also want to see in faculty and staff people they can relate to. And that, interestingly, or maybe not, some of you, you know, really adds to the belonging, their sense of belonging, is they want to be able to relate to the people that are teaching them, the people they are managing, you know, their registration paperwork, their graduation paperwork. That sense of being able to relate to someone is also important to belonging. But But what is also interesting, I think, in adult learners, I think particularly grad students, is some of them, I mentioned that earlier, some of them just don't want to belong. And for them, not belonging is belonging. They're like, I'm just here. I'm just going to get this done in the 2.5 years that I've committed myself to. If I make friends along the way, great. If I don't, that's also okay. But we've learned that the more we try to like engage them and bring them in, the more they push away,
Mm.
which is absolutely fascinating, right? It's kind of the anti-belonging is also belonging, you know?
Yeah. And to what do you attribute that? I mean, why we often say that belonging is a basic human need. Everyone needs to
Yeah.
belong.
Yeah.
And there are certain, outgrowths of that definition that we can and should talk about.
Right.
But given your work with adult learners and so forth, why might it seem that they're either they don't need it or that they are less likely to engage in the ways in which we often facilitate
Mhm.
belonging in higher ed?
Yeah, I think there are two things that contribute to this. One is um, the graduate student is seeking a very different experience from the undergrad student, right? And maybe that has to do with the way that we sell undergrad education, right? We'll always go, oh, your college years are the best years of your life. You're gonna make all these friends, right? I think we've kind of packaged that and sold that as this whole like experience thing. You're not just getting an undergrad education, you're also getting this experience. And so I think young people go into college expecting that, right? And I think that's why for undergraduate students that for them it is important, right? We see that it's this growing trend also in marketing and PR, right? Come here, you belong, be a part of this place. um but I think for the grad student, one, they're not looking for an experience, right? They are looking for this thing, this product. I mean, I hate to call the degree a product, but that's how students are looking at it these days. They are looking for the education that will bring them economic opportunities, right? And so that is their focus: is I need this degree to help me get a better job in a better environment, be able to feed my family, right? To create opportunities for my children. That's why they go to grad school, right? They're not going to grad school to find their next best friend. So I think that expectation coming in is makes a difference. The other thing is, I think grad students and adult students, um, they are also at a point where they already have had the opportunity to build their support system, right? Whether it's family, a lot of my students are partnered up, so they have that support system in their partner, or maybe they're really close to their family. Other people are very involved in their church, right, or local spiritual groups. And so those become kind of the nexus of support and the core of where they feel like they belong. And because they have that support, they don't feel like they need to go find it somewhere else. And they certainly don't need to find it where they go to school. Because again, to the first point, they're just here. They want to get that degree so that they can, earn more money, right? So I think that is why it just looks a little different within adult learners than it does for others.
Totally agree. I mean, if I
Yeah.
think about it from the theoretical pieces that are out there,
Hmm.
some of which are my own, I talk a lot about these centers that, well, one,
Hmm.
belonging changes with space and time and context, right? So,
Yep.
and who you are shapes your belonging needs. So if I'm an adult
Totally.
learner versus a student straight out of high school, the fact that I'm an adult, therefore presumably older, I already have some existing communities and ties.
Hmm.
My appetite for belonging, as you just said, may already be satisfied, but
Yep.
satisfied by my family or by my church group or by my local community, group that I'm a part of, or by my
Yep.
fraternity or sorority. And therefore, I'm
Hmm.
not coming to college, whether in person or online, looking for that to be filled. It's already
Yeah.
filled. I'm looking for ways to renegotiate that relationship so that I can do college and life with my community.
Right.
I think that's really solid. And then the second one that came to mind when you were talking was this idea that so not only is it already in place, but this is the critique of higher ed. And this is why the work that we're all doing around belonging matters so much. I often say in my public lectures, people try to satisfy belonging for college students through pep rallies and, musicals and summer bridge programs and small boutique programs that will introduce a student to you in 5 weeks. But, for an adult learner, those strategies may not be appropriate.
Right.
So you invite them to the kickoff barbecue, but they don't come because we got kids who have football and baseball on the weekends, or they're taking care of aging parents. And so higher ed has to think more creatively and use the work that we're all doing and think like, okay, that strategy might work for a student who's living on campus and can come out to the quad and enjoy the barbecue. But what about the student who's not? Or increasingly the student who will learn online and never come to our campus?
Right. Right. Or maybe, even if they are even if they're able to come to campus, I'm a 43-year-old woman. If I were to go back to school today and, be invited to a cookout or an ice cream social, I'd be like, is that how, it sounds fun. And maybe, if I was 20 years younger, I would, but that's also not how I want to use my time. Right. And so I think it's also creating opportunities where the student finds value in investing, maybe it's that 30-minute or 45 minutes in their day, away from things that they really care about, to be able to foster these connections.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so many good points. Okay, I want to say one thing here, and then I'm going to add a question. I only have a couple of questions left, but I'm going to add one.
Okay.
I thought about it. So, for those who will watch the episode, or those who are watching now across all the various platforms, some of them may very well work in offices that run the kind of programs we're talking about. And as you were just speaking, I remember when I went to grad school, I got my doctorate from Virginia Tech. And I remember very early on, there was like a grad picnic or barbecue or something in a very large open area. And though most people think I'm an extrovert, I'm an introvert. And so when left to my own devices, I'm usually not going to sign up to go meet with a billion people who I don't know if I don't have to. But I had enough people around me, or I had enough messages that I thought about it, and I was really uncomfortable not going. So I decided to go. And I had a great time. It was perfect. Got a free t-shirt and, whatever else we did. But I was thinking about, what if I had been 43? What if I had been an adult learner versus I was very, very early starting my PhD, very, very early life. And I'm thinking about how often those who design those programs also think about the fact that, one, do we ever affirm through our marketing and communication that, hey, this is an event that's open to students and their families? So if you want to bring your partners and your kids and your dog or cat or whatever is comfortable, hey, bring them on, because otherwise you're filled with all these questions. You might not go because you're thinking, I don't want to separate from my family and my kids or whatever. And then the second is, when you build it and you invite the family, do we make sure that in addition to having, tables so that incoming students can learn about their program and connect with their faculty, there are also things for their offspring, their kids to do that are fun, and they're not college age. I'm just reactions or thoughts to that?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because that's also something that I try to emphasize when I meet with new students, right? Or incoming students, is, I try to encourage the team to think about ways in which we can engage the family. And I know we joke about helicopter parents a lot, right? We've all had to, if you're in higher ed, you've had to deal with your fair share of calls from parents who are trying to do that. And sometimes, there are some conversations where we have to tell the parents, hey, this is something for your child to figure out, because they're 25 and they need to be able to figure this out. But there are also times where I try to engage the parents, or, we have open house events and we open that up to parents and spouses, and even kids, right? And I try to, remind my team, hey, let's have, some crayons or things like that for if the kids come, and we can, it keeps them occupied while the parents can go, listen and take in the information and ask the questions that they want to ask. And I realized that when we do that, the spouses would come up and be like, I'm so sorry that I'm the one asking this question. And I always tell them, hey, you are just as invested in your spouse, even more invested in your spouse's success than we are, right? I'm here to provide, the information that you need, but ultimately the decision that your partner or your spouse makes impacts you. So ask all the questions you want to ask about the commitment to this program, right? Because you might not see your spouse for 8 hours a day, right?
Yep.
And so I've always felt it was important to involve the family at this level, because just the way, the main reason is the way that our program is set up is that requires a lot of family support. I mean, all grad programs do, right? I remember my husband was in grad school and I wasn't, and I was just kind of by myself and doing my own thing, and I barely saw him. So I kind of don't want, maybe in a way subconsciously, don't want other spouses and partners to experience that kind of isolation, not knowing what you're getting yourself into. And so as a principal, we do invite families and, loved ones and whatever support system to come to some of our events so that they get to know us, right? And they get to know, kind of the people that the student is interacting with on a daily basis. And I think that helps. I hope that helps, right? I don't know if that really helps, but I've met a lot of like family and spouses of my students, and it's always nice to see the other side of your student, right? And so for those, planning activities like that, I think it's more of shifting that perspective and, being interested in the other side of your student rather than thinking of it as, oh, now we have to do all of these extra things. Are they extra? Yeah, but it has, I think, long-term payoff, and it helps with belonging, right? If the student, feels like, hey, they value my family as much as they value me. I mean, just think of, if put yourself in that position, and just think of what that means for the student. I think that could be really powerful for a student, especially an adult learner who maybe, just hasn't been back to school in a while, right? And maybe they just need that support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. We've got lots going on in the chat. So we've had also the reminder that not only are we talking about kinds of institutions where students are learning online and large places, but also calling attention to community colleges. We know that we've got 4,300 colleges and universities in this country, about half of those, 2,000 of those being two-year community colleges that do a great job of providing higher education opportunity to adult learners and returning students and students with disabilities and low income, no income, Pell eligible. I mean, just incredibly diverse group of students. And so we do need to pay attention to them as well, as and the role that they play. This idea of a student support track as a part of orientation. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. And so we asked about you giving us more, and we got it. Look at that. So student support track, student leadership and campus life, inviting the parents, grandparents, spouses, cousins, whomever supports the student. In their own new student orientation. Love that.
Yeah. And I think in that way, you also take the cognitive load off of the student, right? The student's not taking all of this information, bringing it back to the family, and then they have to be the ones to translate what all this means for the family. That's a lot on the student, right? And so, inviting the support system here gives the support system an opportunity to learn and ask those questions themselves, right? And yes, we want students to be able to learn some skills, but there are some skills that are like unnecessary, right? And I think taking that load off the student is also helpful.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll switch hats for a little bit. Many leaders today are quietly struggling And we've seen all of the, I write for Entrepreneur Magazine, and there are a lot of pieces there. I see them also in Forbes magazine about quiet resignations. That's people who will stay in their job but resign emotionally and psychologically until they can physically leave. And increasingly you find leaders also doing this for the very reasons we've been talking about. You know, emotional exhaustion, fear exhaustion, priority burnout, just so many things piling up. What are some of the warning signs that you would say they shouldn't ignore?
Wow, that's a good question. I would say if you have a high performer who's all of a sudden not engaging, kind of not really doing, just doing maybe the bare minimum or just doing just enough, right? To just skate under the radar, those are really important signs, right? Those are huge red flags. If your high performer is no longer asking the questions that they used to ask, or they're no longer engaging in the same way, whether it's socially or just professionally, that should be, kind of the signal to say, well, something might be wrong, whether it's with the I mean, it could be maybe, the employee has something going on in their lives, right? But I mean, as a leader, I would imagine that I want to know, right? Just out of, I am concerned for my team as people, right? And I want to make sure that we can support them however we can, right? But also, that this engagement is important to the organization as well, right? You don't want to lose your high performers. You want to keep them. You want to make them happy. So I think that first, at least in my organization, that first warning sign is always a disengagement, or somebody who, there are people who wear their emotions on their faces, right? The minute they come on to a meeting and I'm like, okay, what's wrong? Talk to me. So I think as a leader and as an organization, we need to also see people as people, right? And I get, sometimes in the day-to-day, you're trying to get the ship going, you miss those signs. But, let's transition. I think it's a change of mindset, right? It's change of mindset from let's, focus on keeping the ship going to let's focus on the people who are keeping the ship going and making sure they are okay. Because if they're not okay, your ship is not okay, right? So I think it's moving from this organizational like outcomes goals centered perspective to a people centered perspective. I know it sounds cliche, but I think that is what we need to just take care of the people who work with us.
I like and appreciate your reminder that even in these highly demanding, decentralized, and complicated at times professions, fields, and industries like higher ed, but like corporate America, law, business, dentistry, whatever, that it's easy to become profit focused and oriented and program focused and procedure focused, but there's another P word called people that we ought to keep at the center of everything we're doing. And so for those who are out there and they're in leadership or they're working, they're managing, they're coordinating teams, they're running programs, they're generating research or even generating dollars, and they feel like they're struggling, they're tired, they're exhausted. I agree with you. One, when you've got a high performer on your team who's disconnected or starting to, you can tell their energy is zapped, or you just, use all your senses. You hear them and they're short-tempered, or the person who was always, let me try, or I can assist and I can help is now, resisting that kind of work and frustrated by the load. Don't ignore that. Great. Embrace it. Ask them, how can I help? Lend a hand, try to find a way to redistribute that workload, give them a break, encourage them to go for a walk or give them a day or take a mental health day, whatever. All the things that we've talked about as practices in this episode, I think are really great ways of adjusting that. So before I go into my last two questions, question for you, because we're going to move into workplace and then a point of hope. Where are you now in your sort of work journey? I mean, you've dealt with the burnout and have been able to, is there life after burnout?
Yes, I think so. I think there is life after burnout. I mean, somebody actually asked me that question a couple of weeks ago, and that really made me think, right? And for the most part, I mean, we've got good days and we've got bad days. I'm happy where I am. Um, Actually, I think it was my father-in-law who asked me that question. He was like, "Well, what's next for you, right? What's your next step up?" Because he's genuinely concerned about, me and where my career is going. And I was like, and just like, are you going to be dean? Like, do you want to be associate dean? Like, what's going on? And I said, you know what? I'm happy where I am, right? Um, I mean, I also had a very frank conversation with my boss who told me, hey, this is as high as you go in this department, right? There may be opportunities that come up after, but, like this is as far as I can take you. Um, and that, really made me think about what I wanted to do with my life in the next 5, 10 years, right? Because I mean, I do still have a bit of my career left to go. But I'm, honestly am very happy where I am right now. A lot of it, I think, has to deal with the ability to work from home, right? There's a lot of flexibility. I'm able to be there for my family when they need me. But also, I'm, kind of happy with the work that I'm doing. And I'm happy with, most importantly, the people that I work with. I think that I am at that point in my life where the people makes a bigger difference than the job, right? Could I go and be, assistant dean or associate dean somewhere else? I mean, I think I could, but the people won't be the same. And I think, I've said this many times in our conversation, right? I attribute a lot of my success and my ability to do what I do to the people that I work with. So yeah, I mean, unless the people leave, then that's a different story. But I do, I'm happy where I am right now. So there is life after burnout, right? And a lot of me being happy is me being able to draw those boundaries and being able to say no. And, having the courage to just say, this is my lane. I'm going to stay in this lane. You have to carve out your own lane. Don't come into my lane, right? And you can be next to me, right? But you and I are not going to be the same lane. So find your own lane. You stick to it. I will stick to my lane. We can work together and move forward together. But a huge part is that it's just drawing boundaries, staying in my lane, telling people you need to get out of my lane. So yeah, it's I think it's having courage to be able to do all those things.
I love that. And so thank you for just even naming it, that there is life after burnout, and more than that, you can be happy after burnout. And I thought that's important. For anybody who's experiencing distress or struggling, listen, again, you can call or text 988. So we're going to get into our last question. Then we're going to the lightning round. Y'all know the number, 713-496-2717. If you want to dial into the show, or if you have a question for Melissa, we got one question already in queue, but go ahead and drop your questions either in the chat on the various platforms you're on, or call our hotline 713-496-2717, or you can text that number and I will present your question. So now, Melissa, as a person who works remotely, that means you've had to design your own workplace. And you said that you actually believe that there should be separation between your living space and your workspace. If you could redesign workspaces tomorrow in higher ed, what are some things you would change first? One or two things?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think, before COVID, I've said for many years, a lot of jobs in higher ed don't have to be in person, right? And I think is really employers, not just in higher ed, but all over, understanding that, right? That flexibility in allowing employees to work remotely. And I say that because when you have a group or when you have the willingness, when you are willing to let people be remote employees, the diversity of your workforce increases, right? Because I mean, Bowling Green, Ohio, instead of recruiting just from Bowling Green, Ohio, you're now recruiting nationally. And again, I think that's why I get to enjoy the coworkers that I have, because you get to recruit people who really are like-minded and share that vision, instead of just someone who wants a job because they're there and they don't have any other options, right? And this remote versus in-person conversation has gone on forever. Um, but I personally do feel it's about control, right? People feel that if you are in person, I can see you at your desk and I think you're working. But it's this control thing. Even some of my friends who own small businesses, they're like, no, I need to be able to see my employers clock in and clock out. And I'm like, well, do you know that they're working? And they're like, I don't care. They just have to be here. And I mean, I feel like that would be the first thing that would change, is providing more flexibility, not just for the people, but also just think about the talent that you attract and just the like-minded people, right? And we know from research, right, that people who share the vision of their organization are more effective at their jobs. So why wouldn't you want that for your own organization? And so that's, I think it's not really a redesign, but it kind of, is a redesign, right? It's allowing more flexibility in that space. And there are less overheads and there are a lot of economic costs or economic benefits to it. But I think ultimately, as an organization, why wouldn't you just to access a wider population of people who can do what you want them to do?
Yeah. And I see that as a aspect of redesign, in the sense that if we were to reimagine workplaces in higher ed, allowing more flexibility and opportunity, one of which would be that most, if not all, folks could have some aspect of a remote kind of work environment, that would also then require us to alter and change, like, where we store information, because we want to make sure that things are in the cloud versus in the file cabinet behind someone's desk on the second floor, because those who are working remotely can't access that, right? Or that as you're trying to submit information from, whether it's a purchase requisition or whatever, that all of those systems and processes are digitized in a way that enables that person to have that kind of flexibility that can move from in-person to online very quickly and easily.
Right. And technology has, somewhat allowed that, right? So the technology is there. Why wouldn't we, kind of use it to our benefit and to our advantage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This question comes in from our listening audience, and that is, how do you secure belonging as a marginalized leader in a political and campus community that focuses on students first, while also dealing with racial battle fatigue, the weathering and compassion exhaustion? In other words, how can one be proactive instead of reactive to prevent burnout and disillusionment in this system? Big question.
That is a big question. And I am going to respond with maybe a very radical response, is walk away. Because I mean, why? And I say that because why do we allow these environments to exist, right? And I think part of the reason these environments exist is we feel that we don't have any other choice, right? We feel like we have to be doing this job, or we have to be doing this job in this place. And sometimes, no matter what you do to try to improve the environment or make changes to the environment, I mean, if the leadership is resistant, you don't have there's no control over that, right? But you have full control over what you can do, right? And if that means walking away from higher education, I think some of us have to give ourselves the permission to do that, right? I mean, I obviously have spent my entire career in higher education. I enjoy what I do and I enjoy serving the students, right? But you cannot pour from an empty cup. And, I just had this conversation with my students is the airplane defense theory, right? When you're in the airplane and they give that safety briefing thing and they tell you, put the oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on someone else. And I think, you know, you have to be able to do that. And if you find yourself in a position where you cannot put that oxygen mask on yourself, then you cannot help somebody else. And it's radical. And I know that some of us maybe don't have the ability to just walk away. But sometimes I think we have to give ourselves permission to walk away from a toxic environment.
Yeah. Love
Yeah.
that. Thank you for that. All right. So let's sort of end on a very hopeful chord. Someone listening today or who will listen to the recording later likely feels overwhelmed. They may be burned out the way we've been talking about. They may feel invisible. They may be battling the racial battle fatigue or any social identity fatigue that is associated with living and working in these spaces that can be unwelcoming and hostile and overwhelming. They may be questioning whether they should quit or whether they should walk away. So for those who fall on the other side of, you know what, it's not time for me to walk away. It's not time for me to quit. I'm going to use what Melissa told me in the episode to hang in there. So I'm going to find a work bestie or create one. I'm going to speak to my supervisor about using my sick leave or my leave in ways that can support that kind of balance. But yet they're still sort of unsure if it's worth it. I mean, you said you're happy now. What would you say directly to those who are hanging on for hope and just looking for someone to affirm for them that better days are ahead?
Wow. If you are someone who chooses to stay in higher ed, despite, I mean, the one thing I would say is, and even in my 18, 19 years in higher ed, there are ebbs and flows, right? I remember the panic that we experienced when the Harvard decision came down a couple of years ago about the use of race in admissions, and everyone was panicking. And I looked around the virtual room and I was like, we just had this conversation in 2016, 2015, right? With Abigail Fisher v. UT Austin, and we survived, right? Higher education survives a lot of things. We are higher education is staffed by people who are very resilient. We are very resilient individuals, and I know that all of the things that have taken place in the last, has it only been 2 years? In the last 2 years, has a lot of people have left, right? Because it's just one thing after another, and I get it. But, and again, this was a conversation that I had with a colleague, and we kind of agreed, that, well, we need people who are willing to stay on and fight this fight, right? Whatever this fight looks like, right? But we also, as leaders, also need to be cognizant of the fact that the fight cannot be at the expense of our well-being. Some people thrive on this fight. Like, I feel like in some ways I do. I don't say thrive, but I appreciate some of the challenges that I faced. But I think higher education as a whole is a very resilient institution, and we are going to survive this, right? And the next challenges to come. And I think the fact that we survived COVID, the fact that some of us have survived the years of, being critical race theory scholars and being called the boogeyman, right? We've kind of survived that in a way, right? And so we will survive a lot of things, and we will survive this as well. Not sure if that helps.
Yeah, it does. I mean, what I hear you saying is, one, for anyone who's thinking about it, one, that, you know, the field is resilient and it learns. It's a learning profession where we
Yeah.
learn and we improve and we change. It may not be
Yeah.
dramatic or drastic, but over time, you know, we learn, we adjust, we accommodate, we come out better. But so too are the people who are in it. So for those who might think, you know, man, this is my profession. I've invested so much time into it and I could walk away, but I don't want to just yet. And I feel like I got a lot of energy or gas in my tank. And so to know that you too are resilient, that you've overcome things that would have broken many. So if you can bear it, you can find the support, you can find the assistance, you can create balance for yourself, then it's worth pursuing because you'll change lives. I always tell the story of my grandmother, who was a public school teacher, going to her town in, you know, coastal Carolina. You cannot meet a person who does not know my grandmother. You would think that my grandma was like the news anchor on the nightly news or someone rich and famous, but she was a public school teacher. She just taught so many students for so long that so many people's lives are impacted. And now their kids and their grandkids. And I think the same is true for all of us in higher education. So this is what we do to close out. We call it the lightning round. It's real quick. The only rule is, Melissa, it's got to be one word or one sentence. You can't overthink it. So here we go. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
I'm supposed to be starting music. Hold on, I've got to do this. They're like, you played it, this. So we're gonna have there we go. Okay. All right. So you said, which one did you say? Tea?
Coffee.
Oh, coffee. Yes. Okay.
Always coffee.
Okay. Morning or night person?
Oh, morning.
Okay. Are you more of a vacation or a staycation?
Oh, vacation.
Okay. Mountains or beach?
Oh my gosh. Beach.
Beach. Introvert or extrovert?
Introvert.
Introvert. Okay. Now we're down to the last one. These would probably require a couple more than one word. You're free to do how you would like to do it. What is one thing you enjoy doing this week?
Oh my gosh. Cliche, but spending quality time with my family.
That's not cliche. That'll count every time.
Cliche.
Love it. Okay. One thing every employee deserves.
Wow. To be respected. Respect.
And last but never least, complete this sentence. I've learned that
I can help.
Yeah, I love it. All right. So listen, friends, this is so exciting. I am so glad, Melissa, that we had you on the show. It's been great having you. And I got to have you back at some point, obviously. But if you don't mind, let folks know who might be interested in catching up with you, like how they can catch up, your social media or your LinkedIn, whatever you want to do.
Sure, and thank you for having me on. I had a lot of fun. Thank you all for your kind words. I am on social media, but because I am 43 years old, I cannot figure out my handle. I'm on Instagram. I have to pull it up. I am on LinkedIn. What else? Actually, I might just be only on Instagram. I am on LinkedIn, and if I can figure out how to open up my Instagram and find my handle, I will. Oh, it's Dr. Yeung, PhD, one word. And if you search Melissa Yeung on LinkedIn, I'm sure there's not a lot of us. Just thankful for a very unique last name from my husband.
Yeah, well, thank you to you and to Mr. Yeung, to your husband for that. But listen, friends, join me. Thank you, Melissa, for being on the show.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
So indebted for all the wisdom that you've dropped. And like I said, I've got to have you back sometime. Wish you the best and enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. See you all.
Awesome. And thank you all for tuning in to today's show. I've been here with Melissa Yeung. She's been my guest. Today's conversation really reminds us that burnout is not a badge of honor. Rest is not weakness. Belonging isn't a luxury. All of these things are basic human needs, and leadership isn't measured only by our titles or our promotions, but it's measured by how people feel after they've encountered us, after they've worked in our workplaces, and whether they leave feeling smaller or whether they leave believing that they truly matter. That's the kind of leadership that we need more of in the world. And if today's conversation encouraged you or inspired you or challenged you, share it with someone you work with, you care about, your neighbors with, or someone you love. So now, until next time, keep choosing purpose over pressure, connection over comparison. And remember, you don't have to become someone else to belong. Sometimes the greatest act of courage is believing that who you are already is enough. You may have to take a break. You may have to breathe. You may have to walk away. Thanks for watching TLS Talks. I'm your host, Terrell Strayhorn, and we will see you next Saturday. Hope you're having a great day and an even better life.
Look here. You got somebody at home, somebody you want to be with, somebody you want to stay with, somebody you ain't gonna keep waiting. This one for you. I came in with my shoes still dusty, door cracked lit, your key still near. You said, boy, don't make me ask you twice. So I pulled that truth up clean and clear. I got your handprint on my collar, got your voice still warm in my phone. And I love this room, but I love you more. So I'm not staying very long. I can't stay too long. Can't stay too long. She got that porch light on, and I'm headed home. Stay too long. Can't stay too long. Can't keep that good girl waiting. No, I can't stay too long. Your laugh hit soft like Sunday morning. Your eyes said, tell me what's the plan. But my heart been running down that road to the woman who can calm my hands. There's a plate on the stove, I know it. There's a dress by the bedroom door, and she don't ask for much from me, just to come back through that door. I can't stay too long. Can't stay too long. Oh, she got that porch light on, and I'm headed home. I can't stay too long. Can't stay too long. Can't keep that good girl waiting. No, I can't stay too long. You know what I'm talking about. When you got somebody who loves you right, you don't make them sit up late. These walls got stories in the plaster. These bars got names carved in the wood, but there ain't no thrill worth missing. What I know at home is good. So I raise one glass, then I'm gone now. Take my coat, let the door swing slow. If love is calling me by name, you already know I go. I can't stay too long. I can't stay too long. Oh, she got that porch light on, and I'm headed home. Oh, I can't stay too long. Oh, can't stay too long. Oh, can't keep that good girl waiting. No, I can't stay too long. Then I move. One more step. I'm headed through. Oh, I can't leave her counting the night. No, I can't. When I know she's mine. Can't stay too long.
and I'm headed home.